I'm Josh Christensen.
I'm Amy Farley.
And I'm Brendan Vaughan.
And this is Most Innovative Companies. On today's episode, we count down the top 50 most innovative companies of the year. If you are a regular listener of this podcast or a fan of Fast Company, you know that every year we release our Most Innovative Companies list, the centerpiece of which is this top 50 list. But that is only the tip of the spear of an exhaustive package that dives into 720 companies across 59 sector-specific lists. Dozens of reporters and editors and photo people, art people, just tons of people work on this package every single year. It's truly just an amazing editorial lift. And I just get to make a podcast about it afterwards. So all of the hard work that Brendan and Amy leads our team through pays off every year. Is it fair to say this is like our biggest editorial lift each year? Maybe this and Innovation Festival?
I would say this is definitely our flagship program of our recognition programs and sort of the core thing that we do at Fast Company every year. And you were kind enough to call out the hard work that Amy and I do. It is really mostly Amy that does the lion's share of this work. So Amy, over to you for what MIC means to you.
Oh, MIC means a lot of work, but it's really not.
Mainly that's what it means.
Yeah. It's
very little sleep, lots of work.
It means job security.
Yeah.
No, MIC is a project that literally every single editor and reporter on Fast Company full-time and in sort of our trusted contributor orbit contributes to. So I can't take credit for all the work on this. It is everybody that works on it. And you're right, it's everybody down to copy editors, the art and design team, and of course all of our editors and reporters.
And most importantly, this podcast.
And this podcast.
It's host and also it's producers and researchers and everybody else that goes into this.
So every year, obviously, the namesake of this podcast is Most Innovative Companies. We feature a lot of companies on the list throughout the year. But this is the first time we're doing a countdown episode. So think of this like our Casey Kasem's top 40 countdown, but for the top 50 MIC list. This is coming out the day that the list premieres. So you should go to fastcompany.com and check out the whole spread, the whole digital release, and pick up a copy of the magazine at Whole Foods, Barnes & Noble, a bunch of other places. I see it all over the place. So how this episode's going to work is we're going to count down from 50 to 1 every single company that's on this list in 10 company chunks. And then after each 10, we're going to talk about 3 different companies. One Brendan picks, one Amy picks, and then one I pick for them to talk about just because I want to talk about very specific companies that I think are a little bit surprising or a little more interesting. We'll get into them. You'll see what's coming up. But before we get to the countdown, I wanted to ask about overarching themes for this year's list. Amy, why don't we start with you? What sort of stuck out from the big picture here?
I'd say 2 themes. Editors love to work with duality, so I'm going to deliver a duality here. The first one is really not a surprise to see, but notable nonetheless, was sort of AI transitioning into agentic AI. So we have Google and Anthropic on the list that are, obviously offering tools to enable agentic AI. But we see companies that are really laying down sort of the plumbing for agentic AI, like data management company Databricks and Shopify, which is it's really working hard to enable agentic commerce. So we're seeing companies kind of setting down the tools or laying the foundations for with the expectation that agentic AI is really going to take off this year. The duality is also there are a lot of companies, and we'll talk about some of them as we run down the 50, that really are focused on human creativity, on empowering it, on elevating it, on mining it in a non-exploitative way. So I think it's really interesting to see, even as we work towards agentic AI, there's also like real true value in creating a company and creating products that are centered around humans and their creativity.
Brendan, what about you? What stuck out this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think Amy kind of said it, that interesting sort of duality of these 2 different sort of paths that these companies are on. And one thing I would add to what she said is that, and I mentioned this in my editor's note, but, we're honoring these companies. So we were careful when going through them to make sure that these companies were sort of on the right side on balance of this real innovation versus exploitative innovation.
Yeah.
And exploitative innovation is actually an economics term. It sounds so negative. It's not inherently negative if you're an economist. It is squeezing value out of existing systems and charging more for something that you're already doing, where there's a defensible reason to raise the price, or using technology to create efficiencies that will make your margins better. Things like that are all exploitative for existing products. Nothing inherently wrong with that. It can go very wrong if it goes too far, of course. But we really, of course, look for like the real innovation, the using AI to not just be more productive or even more creative, but using AI to create entirely new things, and using other technology to create entirely new things that require entirely new business models. And that is what, and I kind of end my note with a mildly threatening sentence where I say, companies that want to be included on future editions of the MIC list should really keep this in mind, because there's going to be a lot of temptation to do things that are or to focus your efforts just on the kind of exploitative side of things, because it's going to be doable in new ways.
Yeah. I'll be curious to see. There's got to be like a good point, maybe it's in 2027 at kind of the 5-year mark, to look back at all of the applications and honorees of AI-specific companies since the explosion of Gen AI. Because I can only imagine how those applications and how that vetting process has like evolved rapidly over the last few years, because the industry's changed so much. And then I think just like there was a lot of like AI washing companies, which were any company throwing AI into their ideas. And some of them did really cool things and were honored. But I think you start to see like, okay, what is actually additive and what is just throwing AI on the end of a company name.
Yeah. You also saw, when we were going through the applications this year, we also saw things that last year felt innovative, this year have just quickly become table stakes. You know what I mean? There was just like a whole swath of applications.
Which is kind of table stakes for a list like this. There's going to be people trying hard, big things that may fizzle out.
They all clearly read Fast Company, copied everything, and then just that's our challenge too. Is just keeping up with this incredible. No one's a banal observation to make at this point, but like no one's seen velocity like this. It is head spinning, and it is challenging for the companies applying because the competition is so stiff and the table stakes change all the time. And what was so incredible just a short while ago is now totally ordinary. It's a hard thing to keep up with. Companies, though, I'm addressing companies, so like. Companies. Let me rephrase that. Companies. We know you're going to use AI to work on your applications. It's okay. That's another thing that like at first we were like, oh, any company that writes their application with AI, they're out, we didn't actually do that. But like the first year post ChatGPT, that was kind of the attitude of a lot of people around business. Is it seemed like this kind of cheat thing to do. We don't see it that way now, but we do need you to go in after AI generates that draft and add some humanity to it, as well as some real concrete data that you've checked, please.
Just one of the many ways that Fast Company editors are like high school English teachers.
Also, company, you know who you are. This company knows who they are. The company that emailed me to complain about the hours of manpower that they put into their application and they didn't win. And then I go back and reread the application and can literally see the prompts and the AI.
You can actually see the prompt in there.
The AI responding saying, shall I rephrase that for you in X, Y, and Z?
Would you like to go deeper on this part of it?
I was like, so don't shame me if you didn't write it yourself.
All right. I think that's enough big picture talk. Let's dive into the countdown, starting with numbers 50 to 41. Number 50, Diplo's Run Club, for turning 5K races into the hottest parties of the year. Number 49, Tomorrow.io, for making better weather predictions from space. Number 48, The Onion, for proving print isn't dead, especially if it's funny. Number 47, Untitled, for shrinking the music studio to fit an artist's pockets. Number 46, Cressalon, for stopping bleeding quickly. Number 45, Copper, for engineering a high-performance stove that takes strain off the grid. Number 44, Cadence OTC, for making emergency family planning convenient. Number 43, TBPN, for creating Silicon Valley's go-to tech news network. Number 42, Row 7, for inventing entirely new vegetables and reshaping the food system in the process. Number 41, Quick Trip, for brewing barista-level coffee and tea conveniently. All right, out of this first 10 companies, Brendan, which one do you want to focus on?
I'm going to talk about TBPN.
Yes.
So the Technology Brothers Podcast Network.
We're on a podcast. We couldn't not talk about
it seems like a meta place to
TBPN.
start. This will not be a 3-hour podcast, which is the length of the daily
You don't
podcast
know. We just started.
that they do. I know. We have taken a while to get to the list. So this is the Technology Brothers. This is John Coogan and Jordy Hayes. They started doing this podcast. Actually, I forget exactly when, but not that long ago. It very, very rapidly became sort of the go-to thing for people in the tech industry to watch on a daily basis. The way that they do this is, the whole thing is sort of innovative in a variety of ways in that they really just kind of eliminated the line between like podcast, TV show, kind of CNBC style squawk boxy kind of rapid fire. It's all just kind of mashed together. And it really just works very, very well from them. There's a stat in our story where their sales guy, their like CEO figure, president, I forget what his title is, but sold out the advertising for the year in January. The demand for this, and that's a daily show every weekday, I believe. That's 3 hours long. So pretty remarkable demand for this. It's not really journalism. It's more of like a talk show from kind of a fan perspective about technology, and they bring on founders and they get all the big names to come on and talk about their stuff. It's not, you're not going to get the most rigorous questioning, but you are going to get an incredible window into what goes on, in Silicon Valley, what people are thinking about at any given moment. And because they're so prolific and so up to date, it's just a great way for people to keep themselves informed about the hottest topics. And it's all they choose their topics algorithmically. They basically look at X and they see what people are talking about, and that's what they talk about. And, it works.
I think that's the genius of it because that's where the denizens of Silicon Valley are right now.
Yeah.
So they're looking at what's trending on X. They're reading out people's comments on X. They are creating news that is perfect for X, and it's sort of this virtuous cycle for them.
Yeah.
And it's great. I tune into the digest or the diet version of it, which is the 30-minute version. Yeah. And it's fun, but also really hard to follow because
it's all
they're bopping all around.
Yeah.
But but they have really figured out how to create something sort of to elevate what's happening on X, because X is unpleasant for me to be on, but I actually find it very pleasant to take Jordy and John's version of it via TBPN.
There's a pretty wide variety of podcasts out there that suit different forms, but I think there's always been a version of podcasts which is basically just like low budget cable news.
Yeah.
And I think this podcast does that extremely well in a way that I don't know how much you can justify the amount of money and time and effort that goes into like a Squawk Box or some of these different programs as much anymore when you look at TVPN. Totally. And they're just doing it kind of better with less journalistic rigor than these shows, which is another problem for another day. But it's really impressive, and the audience is crazy. And as an EP on this podcast, knowing that they've sold out their inventory stock for the year in January makes me feel incredibly inferior.
Yeah. And by the way, Dylan Abrascato gets the credit for that. He is TVPN's new president and 10th employee. I don't want to just say that guy that sold all these ads. Dylan, congratulations to you. Nicely done. I'm sure you had some help from your colleagues, but very impressive.
Amy, which company do you want to focus on?
Okay, so this is one of my human sort of ingenuity companies. This is Dan Barber, the chef at Blue Hill at Stone Barns, which is a really high-end restaurant outside of New York City. He has been on a mission his entire life to get people to save the planet by eating more vegetables. And to get them to do that, he tries to make vegetables taste better. You can spend $460 to eat at his restaurant and taste vegetables in their best form. But what he started in 2018 was a company called Row 7, which is a seed company. And he started working with vegetable breeders to sort of pick varietals of vegetables or breed varietals of vegetables for their ability to be grown organically, but also for their taste. And they do lots of hybrid vegetables, things like one is called sweet garlic, which is a leek garlic hybrid. They do a habanada pepper that's very sweet and it has sort of the taste of a habanero, but without the kick. So his company's really interesting. They created the seed company. Then they started working with growers to actually sell the vegetables from that company. They sell through Whole Foods and Sprouts, and they're distributed across the nation. And then this year, or rather last year in 2025, they launched tinned vegetables. So like those peel back tins of these fresh vegetables. Because Dan was like, I want to sell vegetables out of season. He is
like shelf stable.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff, yeah.
He does not bend easily to sort of the whims of, consumer packaged goods. But like this was a real concession on his part to create a product like this. And it's brilliant. So I really love the story of Row 7, which has been sort of quietly and steadily growing under Dan Barber. It is, he does not bend. He sticks to his vision. It's a slow and steady sort of disruptive process.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what's happening here. He calls it seed to CPG. That's his moniker for what he's doing right now.
I love that.
I think it's brilliant. And I'm really excited to taste the tinned vegetables. I actually haven't tasted them yet, but
yeah, the tinned vegetables sound great. I mean, it's like the same customer that buys all which is I include myself in this, anchovies and olive oil with the like the sort of tinned fish, which super healthy and I know a few old people that swear that the reason that they're in their 90s is because they ate a ton of this kind of thing.
Yeah,
and I feel like that same customer is like ripe for the idea of tinned vegetables and that whole packaging. I mean, so much food innovation, not so much food innovation, but I personally enjoy just like the packaging innovation that you see and like, mashing up a product category that didn't used to be packed in this way and now is. And I think that's a really good way for brands to stand out to consumers.
I also want to give Dan Barber and this is an issue with phenomenal writing in it, but Dan Barber gets the prize for the best quote in the issue, and I'd like to read it.
Yes.
He talks about his relationship with vegetable breeders. He says, "We are the Ellis Island of these vegetables that nobody wants. Give us your uncoveted, your maligned. We'll champion them onto produce aisles." Like that is a rallying cry for vegetables.
That is a money quote if I've ever heard one. All right, one more company that I want you two to talk about from this batch is Diplo's Run Club, number 50. We have to talk about Diplo having a run club and it being one of the 50 most innovative companies of the year. So why is Diplo on the list?
Okay, so there's a fun origin story here. Diplo has apparently been running for a long time, but he sort of gets into running about 7 or 8 years ago. He finishes the Miami Half Marathon 4 years ago. Then he goes into this legendary club in Miami, whose name I can't remember, that is still pumping from the night before. And he sees all of these fellow runners there, sort of with their runner's high, enjoying the music, and like that is his aha moment. He's like, why not combine the two? So he, a couple of years ago, launched Diplo's Run Club, which pairs a 5K race with a 90-minute Diplo set right after it. It started in 2 cities. It took off. Last year, he brought it to 8 different cities. The New York event drew 10,000 runners. These are some of the largest 5K events in the U.S. It's just absolutely brilliant. He gets all these people together. Most of them are sort of in their later 30s, maybe. They're not super into partying anymore, but they still want to party and they also want to be very healthy. He can sell in sponsors. He sells tickets for between $65 to $200. It's absolutely brilliant. And Diplo, standing invitation if you ever want to come to the Fast Company Innovation Fest and lead a set in a 5K, we're in.
All right, let's do our next group of 10. These are numbers 40 through 31 on this year's Most Innovative Companies list.
Number 40, Golden, for mobilizing public service organizations and their volunteers. Number 39, Unitree Robotics, for catapulting humanoid robots into the mainstream. Number 38, Professional Women's Hockey League, for powering women's hockey into the major leagues. Number 37, IMAX, for defying the box office retreat by going big. Number 36, Saronic, for reimagining how naval ships are built. Number 35, Rode, for expanding the glazed donut aesthetic into a lustrous $1 billion business. Number 34, eGenesis, for revolutionizing life-extending organ transplants. Number 33, Pano AI, for detecting wildfires before they're out of control. Number 32, Gap, for reviving an American staple by electrifying pop culture. Number 31, HKS, for cleaning Salt Lake City's air via a high-rise.
Okay, for this section, Brendan, let's start with you. What company do you want to highlight?
I'm going to highlight a company that when we made the list, it felt very relevant, but now feels even more relevant given that we are at war. This company is Saronic. Saronic is based in Austin, Texas. It is a defense tech company. They make a lot of autonomous products, but they make these Corsair 24-foot autonomous boats. They also make much bigger boats than that are autonomous. The Corsair costs $2 million, can carry heavy payloads, supplies, weapons, explosives, up to 1,000 nautical miles. This company is raising money fast. They raised $600 million in 2025. They assume the cost of the hardware up front, so they are not dependent on, they are confident in what they're doing, and that, as I think we are seeing in recent news regarding the Anthropic, OpenAI, Pentagon thing, that technology is just increasingly intertwined with our, defense industrial complex, which used to, you thought of it as companies like Halliburton and these other huge kind of like aviation companies that produced a lot of, warships and warplanes. It's really now these tech companies, Saronic, Anduril, Palantir is involved, Anthropic and OpenAI are involved, but, Saronic makes the hardware. As I mentioned, they assume the cost of that up front, they build the software, and then they sell it. And they're confident that there's a very, very receptive market in the Pentagon.
I think we've seen, there's been a lot of conversation about the drones that Iran has been using, the very cheap drones that Iran has been using. Yeah. And I think we understand from what's happened in Ukraine that the future of warfare, it's going to be autonomous drones in the sky. I have to say, I was not aware how many companies. Saronic is the one that landed on our top 50 list, but on our defense tech list for MIC, there's several other companies that are all working in sort of the drone boat space. So also picture that dynamic that's happening in the air that's going to be happening on the seas. And Saronic is the leader right now in the U.S. But there's certainly a lot of other companies that want to create software that allow drone boats to operate together, that can deliver payloads autonomously without human involvement. It is both terrifying and also it just feels very, this is the way the world is going to be. And,
it's, it would be nice if this stuff wasn't necessary, but unless we're going to somehow stop war, there is something good about the innovation that is going into creating war material is spelled in the way that material is spelled in that sense, not requiring human beings to pilot them. It will, it will cost lives. It is made for war making, but it will also save lives. And by the way, the Navy awarded, just to kind of mention one specific contract that Saronic has recently received. In December, it got a $392 million production contract for that 24-foot Corsair drone boat I mentioned.
So let's take a hard left turn into, or what I will, maybe the term for this of when you turn on skates. But Amy, what company do you want to talk about?
I want to talk about the Professional Women's Hockey League.
Yes.
And first I want to preface...
This is pretty close to home for you, too.
It's very close to home, and I know you know very well Fast Company teen correspondent Eleanor Woodsworth.
Global teen correspondent.
Global teen correspondent Eleanor was with us, my daughter. She spent the last year playing travel hockey, as the only girl on a team full of 13-year-old boys and has emerged stronger as a result. But like that is no joke. 13-year-old boys are not easy, and it's not easy to be the only girl on their team. Which is why I'm so excited to see opportunities for hockey-playing girls continue all the way up through the professional leagues. But if you watch the Olympics this year, you know the women's hockey is one of the most exciting spectator sports around. But until a few years ago, there weren't opportunity for these women who are literally at the top of their game to do anything other than play in the Olympics. I mean, I used to play on a street hockey league, like on my feet, street hockey in the Lower East Side. I was terrible. We had women that would graduate from college, you know, playing D1 women's hockey, going to the Olympics, and they would come and have to play street hockey with me. I was like, this is pathetic. So there were a bunch of sort of leagues, women's hockey leagues that sort of rose and fall across North America over the past like 15 years or so.
Right.
None of them could really give women the salaries that they needed and could sort of put the infrastructure in place to create sort of a really proper professional women's hockey league until a bunch of players, including Hillary Knight, who was the star of the U.S. women's Olympic team, they went on strike. They said, we're not going to play in these leagues until we can really have a good league. They found Billie Jean King, who supported their cause. She connected them with Mark Walter, who's the owner of the Dodgers, the LA Lakers, and the LA Sparks, the WNBA team. He's invested in a lot of women's sports and sports in general. He bought out sort of the remains of the leagues and created the Professional Women's Hockey League, which launched in 2024 and immediately set a record for pro women's hockey attendance with 21,000 fans at a single game. The league has now expanded to 8 different teams across the country and into Canada. Attendance is, I think last year they were at about 740,000 people attended their games. On average, 7,000 fans at a game. These are, you know, like well-attended games. Merch sales are growing. It's really exciting to see this all sort of like, you know, lock into place this way. I think what's also interesting, though, is that the PWHL has done things a little bit differently. They have a very cool rule that the NHL could even consider. It's called the jailbreak rule, which if you know anything about hockey, when a team is on the power play, the team that, you know, is down a man is just playing defensively. In the Women's Hockey League, if you are down a man and you score a goal, it gets your player out of the penalty box. So you have an incentive to actually
love that.
Yeah, you have an incentive to really play hard when you're down a man rather than just kind of circle around and try to stop the puck.
Just try to like basically kill clock until the power play's over.
There's literally nothing more exciting than a shorthanded goal in hockey. It's just looking at like how do we incentivize the most exciting parts of the game. It's a great role.
Yeah.
The other thing they do is they have this thing called the Takeover Tour where they rent out different stadiums or rinks in different cities and sort of where they don't have a team yet and play a game and sort of see, you know, who's interested in it in this market. So they did that in Vancouver, got a ton of fans, and then they brought a team to Vancouver this year. So it's been exciting to see them, you know, not just obviously like create an institution around professional women's hockey, but also try out some new things and find traction that way. So I love it.
How much have they been like taking a page from, I think this continues the streak of NWSL was featured on MSC list and the WNBA. How much have they been kind of like taking pages out of those leagues' books?
You know, it's interesting because they are owned by the Mark Walter Group, which gives the Mark Walter Group like a lot of control over this league.
They own the whole league.
They own the whole league.
Which is different than almost every league.
Very different model.
So I think like structurally they're different, and that makes them nimble in a way that maybe these other leagues are not. Not to say that the other leagues aren't super interesting in different ways, but
they can sort of make wholesale change and move and be more nimble there. Let's talk about one more company. I am a theater kid, so I need to talk about the movies.
Yeah.
IMAX is on the list this year.
Yeah, no, we were really excited to put IMAX on the list. I mean, I love the movies too. I love movie theaters. And you know, I also really enjoy Netflix. There's room for all of this, right? So, ticket sales, just to give a few numbers here, 449 million in domestic receipts last year, 1.28 billion global box office. That's 40% plus year over year, up 40% year over year. IMAX only accounts for 1% of the movie screens on the continent, but these theaters pulled in 20% of the first weekend box office gross. So an incredible gap between those two numbers. Incredibly impressive take for 1% of the market. So that was for several blockbusters, actually, not across the board. That was Sinners, Ryan Coogler's film, F1 the movie, Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. So these are the big blockbusters.
Right.
Yes, the tickets prices are higher, but the experience is like meaningfully different, justifying that price. So, it's IMAX does have Dolby Cinema, Real 3D, kind of nipping at their heels, but the camera is really the differentiator. I mean, you have to use this camera. It is a piece of equipment, to say the least. 15 films were released last year that were at least partly filmed with IMAX tech, 14 more expected in 2026. The sort of most hyped one is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey, starring Matt Damon. That will be the first narrative feature filmed entirely in IMAX.
But it's cool because, also I feel like IMAX this year sort of reached a moment where it's not just action films and Christopher Nolan. I mean,
One Battle After Another.
Odyssey is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But, like K-pop Demon Hunters is there as well. Like, there's just a wide range of films that now are sort of like having their IMAX moment. And I think that's exciting to see as well. I think, audiences now aren't settling for the same old theater. They're like, if you're going to get me off of my couch.
I want a cocktail, I want a chicken piccata, and I want it to be big screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Truly
really,
big
I mean,
screen.
it has definitely raised the bar for what people expect, but, you have to do that if you want to get them off their couches. And so, but One Battle After Another was where I thought you were going with that, because that was the car chase scene in One Battle After Another.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers ahead, I guess. There is a car chase scene. It is incredible to see on any screen, but I did not see it on an IMAX, I must admit. But I heard that it was just even more extraordinary, and you felt like you were sort of in the car. There was this famous road in California with all these little bumps, and you would kind of feel that sensation of going over it. Some people said they actually started to feel a little bit sick from it. It was a super intense experience, and even more so on an IMAX.
All right, that's a great place to leave it. For these 10, let's move to the next part of the list. Here are companies number 30 through 21 on this year's Most Innovative Companies list.
Number 30, Horizon3.ai, for redefining computer stress testing for the AI era. Number 29, ChainGuard, for securing the open source software supply chain. Number 28, Sierra, for allowing organizations to embrace AI knowing their data is safe. Number 27, Sublime Security, for protecting inboxes from spies and scammers with AI. Number 26, Dayjob, for helping brands glimpse their future. Number 25, Rimas Entertainment, for putting an island at the center of the world. Number 24, Nintendo, for pulling fans deeper into its ecosystem with a new console. Number 23, Unwell, for expanding the Call Her Daddy ethos into a media empire and a new brand agency. Number 22, World Labs, for translating 2D inputs into 3D environments. Number 21, Cloudflare, for safeguarding the internet from AI crawlers.
All right, Amy, let's start with you this time. Which company do you want to highlight?
I'm going to choose Rimas Entertainment, which is Bad Bunny's longtime record label. So last summer when...
Who's Bad Bunny?
Who's Bad Bunny? Last spring when his album Debí Tirar Más Fotos came out. I'm sorry about my pronunciation. I really try. But his team, he's from Puerto Rico, but his team reached out to Discover Puerto Rico, which is the island's tourism board, and asked them for help securing a bunch of hotel rooms for later in the summer. And said they needed to reach out to hotels, get the rooms, but they couldn't tell the hotels why. And the reason why eventually became clear, it was because his team was planning this 31 concert residency in San Juan, the capital city, between July and September that would flood the island with visitors. At the end of the residency, more than 500,000 spectators had come from more than 100 countries, and they delivered an estimated $713 million in direct economic impact to the island. So that was an incredible stunt. Yeah. So what's cool here is how thoughtful the Rimas team was in putting this residency together. What they did was They worked with the hotels to make sure that they were creating packages for tourists that really showcase the island's culture, which is a lot about what he sings and raps about on the album itself. They also made sure that that locals could see these concerts. They held tickets for the first 9 shows for people that were only sold on the island. So you had to be a resident or in residence in Puerto Rico to get one. And for the final show, which was held on the 8th anniversary of Hurricane Maria, which is the hurricane that left Puerto Rico in the dark for a long time, they sold those only to people online who could show that they actually had a Puerto Rican driver's license. So I spoke to the CMO of Discover Puerto Rico, and she said she hadn't even gotten her driver's license, so she wasn't even able to buy a ticket to the show, which I think is meaningful. They also opened their IP up to locals so that outside of the shows, locals could create and sell their own Bad Bunny themed merch. So he wanted to really make sure that the money that came in from these concerts stayed in the island's economy, which I think is really extraordinary. And it opened up the island to visitors around the globe. The CMO from Discover Puerto Rico said that they usually don't have travelers from Asia, right? Like that's a long distance for a beach vacation. But, there were people from Asia that were coming to see Bad Bunny. And then as he heads on the stops of his tour right now around the globe, they're seeing little spikes, or not little spikes, but they're seeing spikes in bookings and sort of Google flight searches from, say, Colombia to Puerto Rico, from Mexico City to Puerto Rico. Like wherever he goes on his tour, people are like, oh, yeah, I want to go to that island. Because if you watch him at the Super Bowl, the entire set is, the island. So he's really bringing that feeling and that culture to life. And he's kind of like, no offense to Ricky Martin, but he is like the best ambassador for like tourism to Puerto Rico right now. And I love Ricky Martin, but
who doesn't?
I don't know. A lot of people, but I'm not one of them.
You're not one of them. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's so cool that he did that with the kind of, I don't know if Discover Puerto Rico is fully public or quasi-public or whatever it is, but its mission is to help the island, and that he just can partner with them to do that. He obviously cares very much about that.
Brendan, who do you want to highlight?
I want to highlight World Labs. Before I get into World Labs, which is a very, very advanced tech company, I want to define what a world model is, which is what World Labs makes. World models, think of world models as the next wave of AI beyond LLMs and, agentic products sort of created by LLMs. If an LLM is basically a predictive model that just looks at the world, the digital world of words and images and videos, and uses pattern recognition and token prediction to sort of essentially very, very high level autofill the next thing, which is kind of how LLMs work. World models are, you think of like, oh, well, that's everything, right? Like AI has everything already. It's got everything on the internet, and you can just go on and with a simple interface tap into this. It doesn't have everything because it doesn't have the physical world around us. And so there is an enormous amount of data, AKA the real world, that is not yet in AI. And that is what world models are trying to do. And it sounds like the most wildly impossible thing imaginable, to basically digitize what is happening in real time outside. But that is what this company, World Labs, is trying to do. There are competitors to World Labs. The founder is Fei Li, an AI legend. She founded this company with researchers Justin Johnson, Christopher Lassner, and Ben Mildenhall a couple of years ago. They're basically, trying to build this world model that processes the spatial data using physics-based understanding of three-dimensional environments. The applications, and their first kind of public product is a model called Marble. You can play around with this. You can generate highly realistic kind of 3D worlds. They can be edited. It's used for sort of game development, video effects development, entertainment experiences. But the real sort of down the line application here that is probably where the real money is. There's all kinds of money that probably can be made in something that is close to what they already have. But when you can take really, really expensive things to demo in the real world, like humanoid robots, for example, and create something that is as close as technology can get to a representation of the real world. You can do a lot of R&D in that space that would be so much more expensive to do by actually building robots, and just save a lot of time and money on iteration and R&D development of this. So, you can think of it, and I honestly don't know if the technologies here are similar, but you can kind of think of it as also sort of an evolution of digital twins, which have been used for quite some time now in creating sort of like factories will use them to create like a new flow for how we're going to do all the machines on the floor. And rather than actually go in there and like do it and fail a lot of times very expensively, we can use a digital twin to do it. Same thing for world models down the line.
Yeah. What does it say about me that my first thought was like the next version of Roller Coaster Tycoon's going to be lit?
Yeah. I mean, it should definitely make a lot of experiences more lit, for sure.
Okay. We're going to talk about our next company. I can't not ask you about Unwell Media, which is Alex Cooper's company.
Do I need to do it?
You need to do it. And
I can't. I'm not very good at like, hey,
look
daddy.
at the camera.
Hey, daddy gang. That's too deep.
You went very
Wait,
like
do that one more
Delilah.
Was that too? That was too. I'm nervous now. I'm doing
we
it.
put you on the spot.
Hey, daddy gang. I can't do it. I'm just too old. That's the problem. Like, I'm
That's
literally
fine.
too old for this. Okay.
This is everyone's missing Yaz, who's on maternity
She
leave
could
right
do it.
now.
Yaz
Could do it.
Yaz would nail it.
Yaz also, I will never let her live this down. She interviewed when we were in the Hamptons a couple summers ago. Do you remember when Yaz and I went to the Hamptons and she was moderating? We did some female founders funds event. I can't remember her name, but she wrote the Sex and the City books. It's who's
Candace Bushnell.
Candace Bushnell. Yaz interviewed Candace Bushnell on stage and started the interview by saying, "Hey, it's Che," which is a reference to
the new one. Yeah.
Which was, it did not get a laugh.
Yeah.
Just like me doing Hey Daddy Gang is not going to get a laugh.
Yeah.
So anyways, Yaz will be back in May. I'm sure you're all excited about that. And you'll get more of that signature wit. All right, why is Unwell on this year's list?
All right, so I mean, people know who Alex Cooper is, the founder of Unwell, from her Call Her Daddy podcast, which is wildly successful. Weekly listenership is 10 million people, which I'm sure is approximately what's happening here as well. She inked the 3-year, $125 million deal with SiriusXM in 2024. That was after a $60 million deal with Spotify for 3 years. And she's built this company to include live events. There's 11 different podcasts under the Unwell umbrella. There's a film and television production arm. She has clothing. She has her beverage brand. What we really wanted to recognize this year is that she also has created a creative agency so she can help brands tap into and reach authentically her audience of millennial and Gen Z listeners. And, there's another celebrity that sort of said, I'm going to launch a creative agency, might feel like a celebrity boondoggle, but Alex has a real way of understanding how to speak to this audience, of keeping it real and keeping it authentic. And her very first deal through the Unwell creative agency was an ad for Google's Pixel 10 phone, which was absolutely hilarious. Brendan, I watched it about 16 times while editing this story, like over and over again. And I didn't tire of it once. Alex, co-stars in this spot. She co-directed it. She edited it. I mean, she scripted it. She was really in the trenches, and it shows. It is a funny, vibrant spot that really sort of speaks to, why you might need access to T-Satellite from T-Mobile when you're out on the road with your friends. So it's really exciting to sort of see this very authentic voice that she has developed on her podcast now being available and accessible to brands. And we'll see where it goes from here, but it could set a great precedent for the MIC pod down the line.
Oh, gosh. Well, we tried to get Jane Goodall, but
We'll get
happen.
Google's next ad.
Yeah, and Josh will get rich doing brand work. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel like it is very smart of Cooper to do this. I think it does raise some interesting questions about, she understands her audience so well, which is why she's been so successful.
Yeah,
and there's probably going to be some temptation to take offers from companies that might not always overlap as well as, say, Google kind of overlaps with everybody, but brands that, where that alignment is really important.
Yeah.
And I think that anybody that does this, that takes their their content and then tries to turn that into this kind of work with advertising clients, especially when it's all built on that personal chemistry and connection between herself and her audience, how that sort of might change over time or might get jeopardized over time by this kind of brand work. I just think it's an interesting tension.
Yeah, it's a unique opportunity. There's been a lot of podcast companies, obviously, that have popped up over the years. Some have fizzled, like Gimlet Media was a great example of a company that was acquired for, mid nine figures sort of acquisition by Spotify and sort of fizzled out. They've all tried to do like a branded content studio or a creative agency. One, they don't necessarily have the singular sort of cult of personality that Alex Cooper has. They've also just not really done it well, and I think kind of for better or worse have approached it more like, journalistic entities approach some branded content. Obviously, Alex Cooper is an entertainer first and foremost and has done this really well. That is an interesting point about the sort of square peg round hole. I wonder what those conversations she's having with her team about like when to say no to different companies because she knows her audience so well. I'm sure there's not any lack of people throwing money at Unwell to do brand work to reach their audience, but not everyone's going to be a fit. And if it doesn't feel authentic, that's kind of a death knell for a creator.
Yeah.
I also think the big question is how much does she need to be at the center of absolutely everything that she does through Unwell, which is still sort of the case. But I think she's starting to put other people in the spotlight a little bit more, and we'll see what happens with the creative agency, how much sort of all the spots need her at the center and how much she can sort of direct it from the sidelines in her voice, but not have her be sort of at the heart of it.
All right, we're getting closer to number 1. Let's move on to companies number 20 through 11.
Number 20, DoorDash, for delivering a cute last-mile robot named Dot and rewards for dining out. Number 19, Abridge, for relieving doctors of chart work drudgery. Number 18, Starbucks, for reclaiming hospitality back to the hospitality industry. Number 17, Harvey, for equipping lawyers with the legal tools of the future. Number 16, BYD, for adapting EV designs to fit every market, everywhere. Number 15, Tubi, for reimagining free, fan-focused TV. Number 14, Redwood Materials, for giving used EV batteries a second life powering data centers. Number 13, AMD, for challenging NVIDIA's near monopoly with a new approach to AI infrastructure. Number 12, Reddit, for remaining authentically human in the age of AI. Number 11, Gilead Sciences, for bringing the end of HIV/AIDS within reach.
All right, Brendan, which company do you want to highlight from this quintile?
So this is going to be a short one. I mean, Reddit basically has just kind of defied all sort of expectation. You don't have to go back too long to the period when Reddit remained this sort of beloved but sort of off to the side part of the internet, kind of weird, kind of intimidating. You didn't really know what was going on there if you were not, it's like if you know kind of a thing. And if you don't, you sort of didn't maybe spend much time there. So since going public in March 2024, which was a successful IPO, I think that also surprised people a little bit, how successful that was. It's beaten analysts' expectations at every quarter. Most recently, Q4 2025 revenue, $726 million, net income $252, up 70% and 255% year over year, respectively. For 2025 total, revenue grew 69% to $2.2 billion. Net income rose 24% to $530 million. So that is almost all due to Reddit's growing skill in selling ads. So, it's not that the business model is so unique. It's not unique at all, but that represents about 95% of its revenue. It's that they've managed to do it while keeping their humanity intact, and keeping this very humanity and all of its like varied messiness, there. And they've used AI. They're using AI in all kinds of interesting ways, but they have retained this kind of most human place on the internet identity, which you really feel when you go on the site. And a lot of people go on the site. Reddit is the 5th most visited site in the US and the 8th worldwide as of January. That's according to SimilarWeb. So amazing growth story there. And I'm just really glad that Reddit still exists.
I love Reddit, and I use Reddit a lot, especially when I'm working on most innovative companies, and I'm sort of just trying to get a sense of what real people think of real things, right?
Yeah.
And whenever that happens, I'm increasingly in the era of AI slop, sort of wondering, well, like, how much is this real? Like, are these opinions seeded by bots? How much of this is bots? Because Reddit used to be the pure place for, pure human perspective and conversation. Now, as we're inundated with slop, you sort of wonder how much of that is pure. And according to Reddit, a lot of it is pure. So that's what I think is sort of interesting about Reddit right now, is that LLMs love Reddit's data. They use Reddit conversations to train their models.
See Maltbook.
Yeah, exactly. Humans love Reddit for the same reasons, because it's real. And then, as we're sort of inundated with AI slop elsewhere, it feels especially important to sort of protect this thing that Steve Huffman has created with Reddit, to keep the bots off of it, to let LLMs train on it, but also sort of like keep the AI agents out of the conversations. I find it super interesting, and I sort of crave all the more that purity of Reddit, and I'm rooting for it.
Yeah, the staying power.
The
I love
agents
Reddit,
can just make their own Reddit. They should just go do it.
You have Maltbook. Go do that. I love Reddit. I go on there all the time. We had Anthony Anzor DeMeo on the podcast from Firefox a couple weeks ago, and while I was preparing for that interview, I just went on Reddit to see how people were talking about the Firefox 148 release and the AI controls. And it's just a great place to just get a sense of how fandoms are responding to things on any level. Like
any level, any fandom you want, you can find there.
Any fandom you don't want.
Any anti-fan you want, you can find there too.
For sure.
There are more than 100,000 subreddits. So there you go.
There's something for everybody. Amy, what company do you want to highlight?
So I want to highlight Gilead, which is a pharma giant. It was a pioneer of HIV PrEP medication, which are medications that are taken to prophylactically prevent the spread of the virus. Traditionally, those medications have required a lot of maintenance. It's a daily pill. Sort of the best you could find up until about a year ago was something that you would have to take every 2 months. But then last year, Gilead introduced a medication called lenacapavir. It's marketed as Yeztugo. And it's a twice-a-year PrEP shot that has been shown to be 100% effective in cisgender women and 96% effective in men and transgender non-binary individuals. So it is, it's revolutionary. It's a game changer. With this level of efficacy and this longevity, lenacapavir has a potential, according to estimates, to avert up to a third of HIV infections across Eastern and Southern Africa within a decade. It could literally, put the end of HIV/AIDS within reach. The key is getting this medication to people affordably. And Gilead's been very good about working with generic manufacturers to try to help scale up treatments, especially across sub-Saharan Africa. The CEO of the company, Daniel O'Day, was very circumspect in talking to us, saying that the Global Fund and the U.S. State Department are helpful in these efforts. But I also think it's notable that, the DOGE cuts of last year decimated the infrastructure across Africa, especially where these medications would be distributed, and millions of people, the clinics that distributed these medications that would give these shots closed down overnight, and some are open. Obviously, not all of them are open, and this is, hundreds of thousands of lives could be lost because of those cuts. But Gilead did come up with an extraordinary medication, and I, hope we're able to distribute it at the scale that we should to be able to stop HIV/AIDS, which we could. So
it's an unbelievable development.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of the conversation you had on Office Hour with David Miliband from the International Rescue Committee. So you should go listen to that interview with David Miliband on Office Hour. Another episode you should listen to of Office Hour was with Tubi CEO Anjali Sood.
Nice transition.
Which
Whoa.
we'll do a nice... Yeah, see what I did
You are
there?
a pro.
See what I did there?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I was going to plug it,
Most
but you already did
innovative
it.
segues, am I right?
Nice segue. Fine work.
We're going to talk about Tubi, one of our cover subjects. We have an episode of Office Hour, like I said, that you interviewed, so you should go and listen to that if you want an in-depth conversation about Tubi and why they're on this year's list. But give me a quick rundown.
Yeah, I mean, I will kind of try to make this one also a little bit short because there is this full conversation that I had with Anjali Sood, the CEO of Tubi.
Wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever you get your podcast. And we got into a lot of good stuff in that conversation. Tubi is on the MIC list because they've got at a time when the whole conversation pretty much around streaming is really centered on premium content and subscription dollars. So Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu, ESPN as this paid product now. I mean, everybody's got, these expensive-ish, premium offerings that might not sound like that much on their own, but when you add them up, as I have on my, I mean, I don't even want to add up like how much I spend on streaming.
I used Rocket Money for the first time to see. Well, one, I was double subscribed
to see how
way
much
too many things.
Oh yeah.
It was stupid. It was really dumb. Anyways, I cut down.
And you saw
a
the
few
ad
things.
for that watching a streaming service.
I did.
Those apps
know exactly where to advertise.
They do.
Eliminating the double pay and seeing it in front of you is bonkers. So anyway, Tubi has gone all in on free. Tubi is one of the. It's not a FAST network, free advertising supported television, which is the acronym for basically just streaming services that run ads like traditional television. It does have traditional ads. It's advertising. Its business model is advertising. If you're not paying, you are the product, as the saying goes. And so they do show you ads, of course. Yeah. It's not an overwhelming amount relative to what regular television has done. But Tubi has just done all kinds of cool things to kind of create free for the younger generation, the people that are used to a TikTok style, For You page kind of feed. Tubi sort of created something that approximated that experience. Netflix has since launched their own version. They grew incredibly fast. They grew from 64 million in February 2023 to 97 million by the end of 2024. That growth has stalled out a little bit. There is somewhere in the what they'll say now is 100 million plus, so pretty solid. But they've actually generated they've reached profitability faster than analysts expected. They've done this through, just really being efficient in how they serve this audience that they've generated using technology to create a really good, algorithmic predictive model for their users. And they've also kind of leaned into this sort of niche as core strategy where they're just trying to create something for everyone. They have the big Hollywood movies, but they also have like these very social media like creator shows that have creators that have done deals with them. And so they're just Anjali is just a very modern CEO who isn't weighed down by, the baggage of the way things have always been done. She comes from Vimeo, where she built, turned that company into sort of like a B2B video, player company from its original, more content-oriented origins. So she's just a versatile executive. And my favorite part of my conversation with her was when I asked her, sort of what are the most important kind of leadership and strategic, lessons that you take from your experience. It's that she's like, you got to just tune out that everybody else is doing it sort of noise, which is such a common thing. We have so much information. And as leaders, you sort of feel this pressure to be like, oh, well, we don't do this thing that is now becoming table stakes for all of our competitors. So we better do that. She doesn't think that way. And, not to say that she doesn't have challenges ahead. She's really got to scale this business and keep growing it at a time when that growth has flattened out a little bit. But Yeah, I wouldn't bet against her because she's just very confident in her vision, even if that vision is sort of a little bit on an island relative to kind of where all the heat and the buzz is in the streaming world.
I feel like niche's core is probably another MIC theme this year. The more I think about it, there's so many elements of that. I mean, it's a big idea that's housed in that.
Yeah, and digitization just makes niche's core so much more economically sustainable. You know, I mean, before when there were all these gatekeepers and all these kind of infrastructural obstacles for niche products of any kind to get enough mass to offset all of the like overhead, it just was impossible. Now the overhead is so much lower. Not with everything. I mean, obviously, like compute power with AI is obviously like an obvious exception to that. But so many things are much more doable than they used to be because of technology's ability to kind of monetize like a much smaller audience than you used to need.
Yeah. I feel like Tubi's kind of taken a little bit of a page from YouTube in a way in that niche's core phase. And obviously there's a premium tier, there's ad supported with YouTube. It's a whole different thing, but which I think was smart of Tubi. And the conversation's just terrific.
They exist in the intersection of all these different kinds of businesses in the general space, but they're kind of the only one that touches all of these different all of these different
like you
businesses.
can watch a Criterion Collection movie and then head over and see something that's the equivalent of like
QB and Me, whatever.
And a YouTube sort of creator driven. Like it's all there and it's all free. So.
Yeah, and interestingly, they she's been she was telling me that something that creators like is the ability to kind of do like longer form stuff for Tubi. So they're under a lot of pressure for the platforms that they're on to keep things short, whereas on Tubi they have a workable platform for longer form versions of their vision that have worked well on YouTube or TikTok or whatever.
Yeah. All right, it's time for the top 10. Here are companies 10 through number 1 on this year's most innovative companies list.
Number 10, Proximity Media, for plucking blockbuster revenues from indie storylines. Number 9, Walmart, for insulating shoppers from the trade wars. Number 8, Databricks, for supplying organizations with ready-made AI agents minus the hassle. Number 7, Adidas, for boosting shoe sales by tapping into nostalgia, then transcending it. Number 6, Yield Giving, for funding American colleges and universities under attack. Number 5, Ramp, for giving businesses unprecedented agency in managing costs. Number 4, Anthropic, for taking vibe coding to a new level. Number 3, Shopify, for opening its doors to agentic AI shoppers. Number 2, NVIDIA, for building the engines of today's data centers. Number 1, Google, for seeing into our AI-assisted future.
Amy, which company from the top 10 do you want to feature?
I want to talk about Proximity Media, which is the production company that was founded or co-founded by director Ryan Coogler. I need to start this conversation by saying that we are talking a few days before the Academy Awards. So I don't know how the Academy Awards turn out, but I can say that it is highly likely that Sinners has a very big night because it is currently the most Oscar-nominated film in cinematic history.
Yep.
So
16
nominations, which is just...
They've been doing well so far in the awards.
Definitely. And
leading up to this.
And Timothée Chalamet has really put himself in a bad position with
he has. I talked about this on a 2 weeks ago on an episode of I'm not a Timmy fan. I don't think he's very good. I think he's very charming. I think he's a good movie star. I don't think he's a very good actor.
Okay.
And also his comment about opera and ballet was
that's
like,
what I'm saying.
you're not entirely wrong,
things.
but you're not helping yourself.
I'm a fan. I think he's talented. I just can't believe it. Stop the campaign. I mean, it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's like, meanwhile, DiCaprio, like, I don't know if he's going to win, probably not, but like, he's over here doing nothing, And it's just like the contrast is just so stark.
And Michael B. Jordan is just being very charming.
Yeah, and he had the big win. Where did he won at? Was it BAFTA?
He won
one of those?
BAFTAs. He won. Did he win the Actors Award? what used to be SAG. They call it the
Yeah,
Actors
he
Award
won.
now.
Yeah, and that's
he's
that
been-
they really like because of where that comes from. That's like a very coveted award. And I mean, the guy played two people, and he did it well. I could tell the difference not just because of what they were wearing, but because of the way he did those characters. And I thought it was super impressive.
So Sinners is the production from Proximity Media. Proximity Media, Ryan Coogler founded it with his wife, Zinzi Coogler, and another production partner, Zeb Ohanian, who is no relation to Alexis Ohanian, the co-founder of Reddit, which we have to say.
Even though they've joked around and pretended that they're related, right?
They are not related. They are not cousins.
Yeah.
We wanted to recognize Proximity Media because Sinners in and of itself is an absolute triumph. It made more than $350 million at the box office on a $90 million budget. And this is at a time when, as we were just talking about, it is really hard to drive butts into seats. And it did it.
Especially for a horror movie, essentially. Like it is a prestige. It is the fact that it's like box office
It's like
success
it's everything.
as a horror movie
Yeah.
and what might win Best Picture of the year.
That's exactly sort of what they're going for. So they created this production company several years ago, and they said there are movies that keep getting overlooked as they're sort of sleeper hits.
Yeah.
Why is it that what's the Jennifer J-Lo pole dancing movie? Now I'm forgetting.
Hustlers?
Hustlers.
Yeah.
Why is that? Like people, like Hustlers did pretty well, but like people were sort of sleeping on it.
Yeah.
It's like because it has a lot of hooks. There are things that are going to get you there. There's Cardi B in a strip club. There's J-Lo. There's a strip club.
Right.
So I say strip club again. Yeah. So their version of a strip club, I'm sorry, Ryan Coogler, are vampires, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they created this movie that is like extraordinarily soulful. It really has a sense of place. It is a strong,
beautifully shot.
It's a strong sense of musicality. There's a beautiful soundtrack. There's a richness, and a historical.
Hannah Beachler sets she was on by design, talking about the whole. It's
all of that,
stunning,
and it's like a vampire slasher movie on top of it. So they have come up with this idea of sort of turning films into events by looking for all these hooks when they're creating a film, and drawing people in, and then also creating a whole bunch of content around the film. So they created this magnificent soundtrack, which is also up for Academy Award, won a Grammy Award. They create a podcast around their films. They sort of bring this richness that also creates a cultural conversation, as well as sort of just an exciting thing to get people to go see it in an IMAX theater. So we wanted to recognize Proximity Media, go deep and sort of look at their process. And also, it's exciting to see what's coming next, which is the X-Files reboot, which Ryan Coogler is.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
How did I not know about that?
Yeah. He's
about to start filming the pilot.
God, I
actively
love the
happening.
X-Files
Yeah,
so
exactly.
much.
And that is going to be a movie, right?
No, that's a series.
show. Okay,
That's a
all
show.
right.
Yeah. But it's going to be really exciting.
Oh, yeah.
So the Ryan Coogler with existing IP, really knows what he's doing. I mean, he rebooted Creed and turned it into, or rebooted Rocky into Creed and turned it into something entirely original. So people are very excited.
Well,
to
and
see
took
what's
Black
happening.
Panther, of course, as well.
Yeah.
So
Black Panther,
Yeah. I mean, it's just I loved in the story that we'll be publishing, listening to the proximity partners talk in this story about like growing up, and it was Zinzi and Ryan that were having this particular conversation. But like you can just tell that they are like movie lovers. These are not. Maybe they refer to their work as films. I kind of suspect they call them movies.
Yeah.
And they talk about going to the multiplex on Friday night and just like the feeling that created and wanting to create that feeling for audiences that combine that just pure blockbuster Hollywood scale with a really artful films that have a lot to say. Sinners has so much to say. I feel like I need to watch it a few more times. I've seen it twice already, but I need to keep watching it. It's got things to say about Irish people and the relationship between them. It's got a ton of things to say. And Ryan is just he hasn't failed yet. Everything that he's made has worked. Yeah. Fruitvale Station was his small first film. Great movie, actually. I don't know, how it did commercially, but everything since then has just been both, art and incredibly successful business.
Yeah. Okay, I don't want to. We'll get to our number one company in a second, which Brendan, I'm going to ask you about. But another wild card to throw out there: Yield Giving.
Yeah. So Yield Giving is Mackenzie Scott's nonprofit, which she founded in 2022. It's founded on this idea that if you give money unrestricted to nonprofits and organizations, they know what to do with that money. So last year, Yield Giving awarded more than $7 billion in grants. That's an insane amount of money. That's 260% more than it awarded in 2024. And notably, $700 million of that went to at least 15 historically Black colleges and universities. $214 million went to colleges and universities that serve Latino communities, and more than $70 million to tribal colleges. It was hard not to see these donations as something of a corrective for what was happening in the Trump administration, which was putting the squeeze on universities for, especially around DEI practices, right? And so here you have Mackenzie Scott saying to all of these universities, here's the money, you know what to do with it, you know what's best. So that was, I think, a really big moment last year that maybe wasn't as acknowledged as it should have been. I also think it was notable at a moment when so many billionaires, including Mackenzie's ex-husband, were doing their very best to get close to Trump so that they could extract more money via the Trump administration or, protect their existing assets. Here we have Mackenzie Scott just sort of like opening her wallet and being a force multiplier for good. So I just thought that was incredibly powerful. And there you have it. It's in our top 10.
Yeah. I don't even know what the story was about. I meant to click on it and I got sidetracked. But just today I saw a headline that was like, this $200 million gift begins as expected with an email from Mackenzie Scott or something like that. It was just, I don't know what it was even about, but yeah, the MO is just, how fun would that be to just be able to just like go through the world, just,
God, yeah, that would be amazing. My wife runs a nonprofit theater company. I would love for someone just to open up their wallet for that not-for-profit, mission-driven theater company.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's hard not to also note that this happened the same year that Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez had their like $50 million wedding.
Spent a little bit on their nuptials.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Well, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of
a force multiplier for Venetian artisans, I'm sure, but it's not the same.
Sure, amazing. Yes, Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez's money is the same thing as Rimas Media for Puerto Rico, for the Italian countryside. I mean, it's also just kind of highlights. I think this year was also like Elon Musk became possibly the first trillionaire or pushing that or where he's going to be.
He did a deal that incentivizes him for becoming the world's first trillionaire with Tesla. He has to hit some crazy numbers to get there, but that contract exists somewhere, and I think the board approved it. Yeah.
Speaking of really big contracts, Sundar Pichai.
Yes,
that's a great segue into our number one company of the year.
Nicely done. You have a future in this business.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Google.
Yeah, Google's number one. So, I mean, close your eyes and think back maybe, 18 months, maybe less than that, maybe a year. I have some friends that work at Google. It's just anecdotal, but I was hearing all these stories about, oh my God, it's over for us. They were behind in AI. ChatGPT had all the buzz, all the users. It still has a lot more users, than Google's competitive products. But Google has closed that ground very, very rapidly. And it just goes to show, there's a lot of innovation going on in here. I think Sundar was a very keep calm and carry on sort of leader during this. I think that there was this, it's been, written about, in a lot about how there was, at the company, like there was some real concern from a lot of people that, have we lost our way? Have we lost a step? No matter how big you are, you can get disrupted and you can get replaced in the digital economy, like with with dizzying speed. It's happened to a lot of big companies that we all know about. But Sundar definitely kept things kind of just, on the steady, moving ahead. Google had a lot of technology that was very comparable with what OpenAI was able to do with ChatGPT. They hadn't released it for safety reasons, and kind of they just didn't feel like that it was ready. Sundar says in the very beginning of our story, yeah, I was caught flat-footed. They admit that they were caught out on that, but just kind of kept moving ahead, adding AI into its full suite of products. You know what they are. I don't have to sit here and list them. Gemini came out last year and really dazzled a lot of people. I mean, when Gemini 3 first was kind of unveiled, there was like pretty unanimous praise for its features, and I just think that the company, in addition to all these product innovations and sort of steady leadership, it also goes to show just the power of infrastructure and the power of having all of these users across all of these product lines, that even if you fall behind, you can catch up relatively quickly if you have good products and an installed user base that is basically unrivaled, and so, and they've gotten into
and 2 AI units.
A couple separate places, I don't know how, they got combined, DeepMind and Google AI, perhaps they competed against each other in interesting ways. I don't know that that's how Sundar, was running the company, but that kind of competition inside these big companies can lead to innovation faster. And so, Sundar announced more than a decade ago that Google needed to become an AI first company, and then it sort of felt like a little bit of a cruel irony when they were so behind for the first couple of years of the post ChatGPT kind of AI revolution, but. Even though they've still got a long way to go to catch up to OpenAI in terms of users, that gap is closing quickly. And, people still, after all, do like Google products. They're not frustrated by using them. Yes, they'll try competition. They will. I think it's probably safe to say that there will be more AI products. I don't think it's going to just be like the giants hoover up everything, although they are, hoovering up a lot of that market share, in the last couple of years. But Google has pretty much shown that this is not going to create a major setback for them.
Yeah.
And that's impressive given where they were just 12 months, 18 months ago.
I mean, I want to point out that you're talking about sort of the dark days of Sundar's Vijay's soul.
It was an antitrust case that was also a pretty big deal in that time
there's
as well.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
but people
absolutely.
were literally saying, is this the moment where he needs to think about retirement?
Yeah,
a couple of years ago, and just a few days ago, the board has approved a $690 million 3-year pay.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sort of top earning from it. But
and the stock is just going through the roof, compared to, it had dipped down to I don't quote me exactly on this. I want to say around 180, and now it's up to back up to the threes, and had been at 330, and so and they went to $4 trillion in market cap.
It's crazy to me how it was OpenAI, Anthropic, and then at some point it was like, is Google just gonna win the AI race after all of this? The big bad company over.
Well, and Microsoft
was
was the kind of against all odds, the kind of cool kid there, along with OpenAI in 2023 because of their big investment and all the gains that they saw from that. And they're still very much in the game, but Google was kind of on the sidelines, and they've just really come surging back. So an irony of my job, which I've pointed out before, is having to cover companies
that are undermining your business
that
model.
are killing my business. So
Google Zero, man.
Yeah, I am not that psyched about Google's impact on Fast Company's core web business here.
It's why you should subscribe to Fast Company. And
Fast Company is open for business. Please come and subscribe to us. No, we have plenty of traffic. We have plenty of subscribers, but Google is making it harder for everybody that wants to be found on the internet, not just Google, AI in general, and they are now in the AI search business. And we're just going to all have to, in this sort of I don't want to just limit it to media. It's really anybody that wants to be found on the internet is going to have to find new ways to be found as a result of these products. But I can also admit, as just a regular person online, that the AI overviews, they're pretty good.
Okay, but
they're pretty good.
I want to point out, as I
We have to admit,
before we got here this afternoon, I was doing a little prep, and I was like, when did when did Mackenzie Scott and Jeff Bezos get divorced? Google's AI overview assured me that it was September 2022.
Okay.
Reader, it was not. It was in 2019, and that information.
But isn't it innovative for Google to say it was 2022?
Yes. Yeah,
So
I mean, it
this,
is. Yeah, it's a complicated picture.
It's
There's a lot
complicated.
of contradictions.
Yeah.
But honestly, AI overviews is like the least of their
It's
success
the least of it.
points
I mean,
at this point.
yeah.
Nano Banana is pretty
phenomenal.
impressive by all accounts.
Notebook LM is my favorite.
Notebook.
Yeah.
Notebook LM is great. And by the way, Waymo and YouTube
Yeah, this connects
are
with
part of their
Waymo,
business.
connects with all of this stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's just shot through the whole thing. And as Sundar also points out, the underlying technology just drives all of these businesses. So whereas before, you might have to have different buckets of R&D and buckets of P&L to kind of and each one had to sort of justify itself. Now you've got this underlying tech that is extremely powerful in driving businesses as varied as Gmail to Waymo.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of the coup that I always look back to in the past year for Google and Gemini in particular was Apple basically waving the white flag on Siri and now using Gemini as the powering engine behind Siri.
The stock market loved that announcement when Apple and Google announced that. Yeah,
but it's notable that Meta has sort of stumbled on the AI block. Apple has sort of stumbled on the AI block for two other Mag 7 companies that are in a similar vein of Google, but Google has surpassed and not been left behind by the new big AI companies on the block.
Well, something that will be interesting to watch going forward, and we didn't make too much of this in our coverage of Google for the top 50 and being number one, is that other tech giants, they use plenty of NVIDIA chips, but they make their own chips.
I was just going to say, that's the sleeper.
Yeah, I mean, the sleeper kind of longer term thing is how long are they going to keep spending a lot of money on the compute that they buy from NVIDIA to power all this when they could do it themselves. I don't know if they want to do it themselves in a big way, but that has come up, and that's something to definitely keep an eye on for how they can reduce their spend and improve their margins even more in the future.
Potential case for MIC 2027.
We will see.
That's a great place to leave it.
Thank you.
The list and all of the subsequent sector lists are out now on fastcompany.com, also on your magazine stands. Go check it out. Amy, Brendan, thank you so much for walking us through this year's list.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Josh.